Hey guys, welcome back to the James and James Show. I'm Josiah Damas. That guy over there is Will James.
Yes, I am.
And this video, we're going to be going over the NFC East. I almost butchered that one. So we already went over the AFC, so now it's time to go over all of the NFC. And obviously we got to start out with the NFC East, because that division is a little competitive, I guess. I don't know.
Well,
would it be competitive?
Depends on your definition of competitive. Not like the AFC North. It's kind of like
Different kind of competitive.
I just don't even know how to describe it. It's two guys. It's two guys at the top that are beating the shit out of each other, and then there's the other two. They're like, we're gonna get you one day. Don't you worry. It is a historic division. I'll give you that though.
This is true. So I guess to start off with the NFC East, let's do the
Dallas Cowboys.
Dallas Cowboys. Yeah, I was just about to say Dallas Cowboys. So looking at their schedule, this is kind of taken back from previous videos, so we just kept the logistics and everything still put in.
So the AFC side.
Yeah, the AFC side. So all the AFC games are in here. So what we have so far is the Browns win first week
Against the Cowboys?
against the Cowboys.
So it's a loss for the Cowboys week 1.
Mm-hmm.
Week 3, they played Baltimore.
They lose to the Ravens.
Mm-hmm.
And
Pittsburgh week
then
5.
Dallas beats the Steelers. That's like their defining win early in the season.
Let's see. What other AFC ones do we already have? Houston week 11.
Dallas wins that one.
And
then the Bengals
Cincy
in week 14. And that one is the Bengals winning.
So a loss for that. And then that's all the AFC games for Dallas.
Oh, dang. They don't play many AFC games.
No, they
I guess
usually do, because you play a whole division and then one team from one division. So they play the entire AFC North plus the leader, because they won the NFC East. They play the leader of the AFC South, which is the Texans. But then, like, you'll see with the Giants and the Eagles and the Commanders, like, the Eagles will play the second team, which was the Jaguars, because they finished second in the division last year. Who was third? Was the Commanders, I think? No. There was the Giants.
The Giants was third. The Commanders were last.
Surprisingly, because somehow the Commanders I thought were better than the Giants, but
Not on paper.
yeah, record-wise, that don't mean anything. But then Giants,
let's see what they do next year. They got a little bit of hope this time.
Giants have Colts, and then Commanders would be Titans, which makes sense. But yeah, they only get 5, and then the rest is between conference, which is good because that gives us more to talk about.
Yes.
But against the AFC, they go 2-3 is what I have, correct? Wins against
Yes.
Pittsburgh and Houston, and losses to Cincy, Baltimore, and Cleveland.
Yep.
All right. And then, that makes this interesting because that mixes up. I have a few games highlighted that I thought were interesting. I would like to address how much I hate the NFL scheduling the Cowboys against the Giants in primetime games, because it hasn't been an interesting game for years.
Tradition, maybe? I don't know. That's all I'm going to cough up to that.
I mean, it used to. What was it? Was it last year or 2 years ago where they got 2 Sunday night or Monday night games and they were horrible blowouts?
I believe so, yeah.
This year, it's Thursday night football, which has been traditionally bad the past couple of years.
There's been
Hopefully,
a couple
it's
good games.
better, but it's like we had 2 straight years of. We have 2 straight years of Bears Commanders.
Oh. Yeah. Oh, no.
I don't know what they did they're just trying to screw Amazon Prime, but I don't know. Do we just want to go through? Do we want to break down by division games? Do we want to go pick out the easy games and then go to maybe the more difficult ones?
I'd say we go through the normal schedule, and then if we get to difficult ones, we'll just kind of leave it up for a moment, and then we'll go back to those.
We'll go back to those.
So we'll jump to week 2. They're playing against the Saints.
I thought this one would be a kind of difficult one.
Really?
surprisingly, because one, I also kind of expect Dallas to not look as good this year. They've looked great the last couple years, and I think they'll still end up probably still making the playoffs.
Okay.
And then, as usual, round one bounce, whatever. I mean, their schedule isn't super easy. They got some difficult games. Saints are an interesting team because of the fact that they're a team that has been avoiding a rebuild forever. Like, since Drew Brees left, they've been avoiding a rebuild, trying to kick the can down the road, and they're just like, oh, we're going to keep just barely getting under the cap. So they're not, I don't think they're going to be great.
No.
But
they're going to be serviceable.
They're going to be middle of the pack. They're going to be good enough to not have a good first-round pick.
Yeah.
And that's about it.
Yeah. I mean, Saints fans, I'm sorry about that, but, I mean, Dennis Allen is kind of your situation right now, so...
And Derek Carr.
Okay. As much as I like to crap on Derek Carr, he seems like a nice guy. I just don't...
He's a solid quarterback, but he's not good enough. Someone put it that he's the 16th best quarterback, and on a good week, he's the 14th best, and on a bad week, he's the 18th best. But he's middle of the road, and
Fair.
He's not a top 10 quarterback. He's not going to win you games. You have an aging defense.
Yes.
I mean, your offense is okay, but you have O-line problems. Trevor Penning has not been good. Ryan Ramczyk has been injured. This is getting a lot more into the Saints.
Yeah, this is about to say, this is getting a lot more about Saints.
But looking at the Cowboys, I like the Saints are still going to be middle of the road. That's just kind of what to expect from them. And I don't know, I guess with the start against, this isn't going to be their first game at home. They usually have a little bit of a rough start, but I don't know, maybe this isn't as much of a toss-up. Maybe this is easier for the Cowboys than I thought. But to me, at first glance, it just seemed like a trap game. But now the more that I look at it, it kind of looks more like a safer win than some of the other games they have.
Which is fair.
So
Cowboys,
winning against New Orleans.
Winning against New Orleans. Lose to the Ravens week 3. They beat the Giants.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think if we're just going to throw this out, they sweep the Giants.
Yeah, I don't see the Giants being good. Their roster was bad last year, and I think they got significantly worse.
I mean, they got Neighbors.
They got Neighbors.
I mean, he's a good receiver. It's just, I don't know if they fixed the things they necessarily needed.
Your offense I don't think, got that much better, and you lost your most important player.
Yes, that's what happened.
And you lost a tight end to retirement.
Yay!
So you gotta hope your defense is good. That's gonna be your hope this year. But yeah, sweep the Giants against Detroit.
This might become a revenge game because last season the Cowboys snuck out a win against the Lions. Remember that?
Very controversially, yes.
So, if we're going to follow the quote-unquote scripts of years past, they like good stories. So this might be the one where the Lions overcome that bump in the road from last year and they beat the Cowboys this year. I mean, it was an entertaining game last year, so I'm expecting this one to be really good.
Oh, see, to me, honestly, I see this as a game that the Lions have had circled for a while because they held a grudge for a while after that game.
Fair.
I think the Lions might come into Dallas and just curb stomp them and absolutely destroy them because this is...
I can see it both ways. I can see being close with the Lions winning, and then I can see the Lions stomping all over them. Unless something happens with the Lions... I'm not jinxing them whatsoever. But
I mean, if you hope they're healthy, but again, even if they're injured, I just think this is one of those games where the Lions are just angry and they're going to come in here and this is a game they've been looking forward to, and I see it just being not pretty for the Cowboys. And it's one of those games that's just oh Oh no.
Yeah.
So I think the Lions win this one.
Okay. They got the bye week 7.
And then
Week 8, Niners. No offense, Cowboys, but I don't think you're ever going to beat the Niners with McCarthy as your head coach.
definitely not in the playoffs.
Definitely not in the playoffs. Regular season, that's a maybe. This year, the 49ers stayed roughly the same with their roster, roughly the same. Cowboys lost a couple pieces, and who knows what's going to happen with the trio. So I'm leaning towards a Niners victory right now. Unless something weird happens during the regular season, I don't see the Cowboys winning this one.
I see this being a really rough game. The thing with the 49ers this year is it's going to be all up to Brandon Ayuk and what happens there. Mm-hmm. Not that he is like the only important player, but losing him and where he goes is going to be a big impact. I do see this as a loss to San Francisco because I think San Francisco is still one of those teams to beat.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think there's any reason to not believe that that's the case.
Yeah.
So I would mark that down as a loss. And then they go on the road again to Atlanta.
They beat Atlanta, I think.
Really?
I think they beat Atlanta. Atlanta tends to stumble here and there.
I'm expecting Falcons to take a big step forward. They, I think, should be the favorite for that division. They'll battle it out with the Buccaneers, but I also think they're a I guess it's not that sneaky, but like they're a potential team to take over the NFC because you have Kirk, you have a lot of weapons with a new coach who hopefully knows how to use them. Who isn't Arthur Smith? I'll say that.
Who isn't Arthur Smith, yes.
And you have a defensive coach who is really good at building up the D-line. Even though you didn't get an edge rusher, maybe he still knows how to work it in a way that actually gets you some production. I mean,
do you think the Falcons...
I just think the Falcons are going to be a lot better, and this being on the road... back-to-back weeks.
Dallas isn't that good on the road.
Yeah, I think the Falcons might be better.
I think the Falcons might win this one.
But then they go and they play Philly
Dallas,
at home.
Dallas beats.
I think they split. They split.
So each will win at their home. So Eagles will win 17. Dallas will win 10.
And then, it could be interchangeable.
They're very competitive.
It could be interchangeable who wins. I think that's probably going to end up a split. Mm-hmm. You have your win against Houston, and then you go...
beat the Commanders.
On the road to the Commanders. For some reason, I actually thought this one would also be an interesting game because of the turnover in Washington.
True. Washington... in my opinion, will be a whole new team right out the gate. Like, in the sense of that, like, I'm a whole new man. I'm fixing everything right away. Washington's going to struggle a little bit for a bit, maybe into next season. So I think Dallas will beat the Commanders. I don't hate the Commanders. It's just it's hard to see the Giants or Commanders beating the Cowboys or Philadelphia more than once a season. Mm-hmm. I don't know. It's just not happening right now.
Yeah. I mean, my only reason for thinking Washington could is it's a home game for Washington. And again, they got a lot of new pieces. You got Jaden Daniels. How good is Jaden Daniels? I mean, obviously he's looking good in preseason, but what does that actually mean? Basically nothing. It can mean a lot. It can also mean absolutely nothing because that's just how preseason is. But you have Cliff Kingsbury. We don't know how good that offense is going to be with him, because it's a complete overhaul, which most likely year one is going to be rough for them.
Yes.
But if you build the right staff and get the right guys, year one can look good in a complete rebuild. Ergo, the Texans.
Yeah.
Because that is an example of doing it well. Now it's hard to tell. I just thought that there's a chance that there's a split with the Commanders, or that this could be like this game would be the one that I'm like, maybe it's a toss up. But if it also could just be a sweep by the Cowboys, I
think they sweep them. I'm only going to go with that only because Daniels' first year overhaul of that team. That's the reason. Surprise me, Commanders. Like, literally. Like, do something spectacular. I don't know. I like to see Jane Daniels succeed. So.
Yeah, I mean, he's got good weapons. His O-line isn't great, but it's not the worst in the league. And, again, that's why you get a guy like Jaden Daniels, is he can run around. Mm-hmm. And you know who knows how to work with quarterbacks who know how to run around? Cliff Kingsbury.
That's probably why they got him.
And it's like, I could see the offense being, like, just built to run, not literally, but built to like, a functioning machine.
Yes.
Much better than they were last year, which says a lot because you had Sam Howell as one of the passing leaders.
Yeah.
Despite being actually probably most sacked quarterback, because looking at the stats, he'd be up there with Bryce Young.
Daniel Giants QBs.
Giants QBs as a whole, but as like individuals, that with the injuries, that actually kind of helps them.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it'll be interesting, and I'll mark at least week 12 as a win for the Cowboys. I think that one could be close.
And then
we had the win against the Giants, lost to the Bengals.
Cowboys beat the Panthers.
Yes, I think the Panthers aren't going to be as bad this year. That doesn't say a lot,
no.
But I don't think they're going to be as bad.
And then week 16, Tampa Bay visiting Dallas.
This one was another one that was kind of interesting because, again,
Dallas should win this one.
I think there's a lot of people who get hung up on what the Buccaneers were in the playoffs and completely forget how they were in the regular season.
Yeah, the regular season wasn't spectacular.
It was
something.
It's a make or break year for Todd Bowles.
Yes.
This is like, if you're bad this year, I think you're gone.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's, again, and it's late in the season. So this is the point where he could already be gone if they're that bad, or he could have secured his job by this point.
Yes.
It's hard to tell where the Buccaneers are going to be at.
But they'll be competitive. I believe that, because they kept most of that roster. Evans and Goodwin and Mayfield still the same team. Re-signing a lot of those defensive players and offensive key pieces. So yeah, I mean,
I would mark it down as a win, but I think that's another game that could be close.
Mm-hmm.
We had the Eagles win at home,
and then Dallas winning at home against the Commanders.
Well, let me count. Let me look at this first, because they would have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
9 to 10 wins.
You'd probably need the win to actually get in. So I would say they actually play their starters, and they would probably beat the Commanders at home. Just because it was like a numbers thing. Because if you have 13 wins going against the Commanders week 18 at home, is like, no, we're not gonna play our starters. But it's closer than it is, and that puts them at 10 wins,
which is not bad. It's not terrible.
Yeah, but squeaking to 10 wins with a Week 18 win against the Washington Commanders and maybe just barely sneaking into the playoffs, it would be a little concerning for what the team is supposed to be, and I think that's kind of what I think is probably going to happen, because I think the Cowboys have had a couple years of being really good. They haven't had one of their years of not being very good, which I feel like they're due for.
They're very due for one, because there was 2020, but besides 2020, 2016 to now, they've had a decently good tenure with Dak Prescott and all those players, so they're kind of due for a downslope eventually. I don't know if that's this year or next year, but
yeah, I think they could still make the playoffs, but I think you probably see more, because there's so much change in the league over the past few years that you're probably going to see some of the regulars start to fall behind. And I think the Cowboys are one of them, especially with, the poor managing of what's been going on. And it's just like, sorry, not sorry, but they just have not been doing a great job. So on to the Giants, though.
The Giants.
Let's go through their AFC games. Week 3 against Cleveland.
They lose to Cleveland. They lose to the Cowboys in week 4. They lose to the Bengals in week 6. They lose to the Steelers in week 8. They lose to the Cowboys in week 13. Lose to the Ravens in week 15. And lose to the Colts in week 17. Yes, they lost all those games. I'm sorry. That's just how this is panning out right now.
Again, I think teams to be expected to have a top 3 to 5 pick, you're probably going to have the Giants, and then going over to the AFC, obviously, Raiders and Titans, maybe. Titans might be a little bit higher, but, I mean, those are the teams that I think just aren't going to be good, like, at all. No. And a lot of belief with the Raiders being better, but your quarterback situation is what your best guy there is Gardner. But anyways, there's a lot of, I think this could be a very bipolar year where there's a lot of really good teams, a lot of bad teams, and then the teams in the middle are kind of the rebuilding ones. Giants, again, just not looking good. You do have the advantage of playing Minnesota week 1. I
am confident that they will beat Minnesota week 1. Minnesota, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for the J.J. McCarthy news. I think the Giants will win this one.
I think, yeah.
It's one of those close ones where it's like it could be anybody's game. But with how recent things have turned out, especially with the Vikings, Giants may have an edge week 1. And I've also noticed that for some reason the Giants usually, or at least for the last couple years or so, I thought they win the first week. I don't know if that's true or not. That happened.
Not last year.
They beat the Titans, didn't they?
Last year, didn't they play the Cowboys week 1?
I'm thinking of 2 years ago. Never mind. Ignore me. Point still being, Giants might have a slight edge here.
Yeah, I mean, again, bad teams still win games, and I mean, you're looking at a rebuilding Minnesota team who probably will be better than the Giants by year end, but this is one of your advantages. This is one of the times where you're set to win, and I don't know how they're going to do it because you have neighbors, and
what you do,
Eric Gray, like who you playing at quarterback? Daniel Jones. That's not very reassuring. You got some pieces, but it's. Yeah, highlight of the year, probably your week 1 win against the Vikings. And that's if they don't hold a grudge from 2 years ago in the playoffs. Mm-hmm. So
we shall see.
Commanders.
Loss. Giants will lose.
Yeah.
So Giants lose the next 3 games from 2 to 4.
You play Seattle.
New York in Seattle, I don't think that's happening.
No, and I think, I think Seattle's going to look different than they have in the past. They've been really offensive. I think for some reason I'm feeling like a Geno regression year, but like a better defensive year.
It's going to be a better defensive year for the Seahawks.
So I think I don't think the Giants are going to be able to do anything. Mm-hmm. But I think Seattle might struggle with, especially because of new coaching. But,
new coaching is always going to be a tough thing to get through.
Well, and the guy they got also, God, I can't remember his name. He was the
McDonald.
Yes, McDonald, the defensive coordinator from the Ravens, who'd been very good. Mm-hmm. So I kind of expect to see a more defensive team. But then you lose to Cincinnati.
Lose to Philadelphia.
Yeah.
Lose to Pittsburgh. They do beat the Commanders at home in Week 9.
Which I can't remember, and maybe I can check last year. Is it between the Giants and the Commanders, one of them can't beat the other, and I can't remember which one it is.
I think the Giants beat the Commanders all the time.
I can I can double check real quick.
Research time.
Yeah, a little bit of research. Hold on. Just give me a minute. Well, they swept them last year, which would probably reinforce that. So they're 3-0-1 in the past 2 years. Because, yes, they tied 2 years ago.
I forgot about that.
That actually helped the Giants make the playoffs.
That did happen.
But, yes, the Giants tend to actually have the Commanders' number. For some reason, it doesn't make sense because they've not been great. But I think they can. I think they can win one game. I think Washington is gonna be better, especially again, new coaching and everything. So you're gonna look at a new regime. But I think they're gonna get at least a win against Washington. It's not gonna look good for the Commanders when that happens. But
no.
Then they'll go and play Carolina.
I think they beat Carolina. Or do you think this is going to be a toss-up game? Or not a toss-up, but do you think the Panthers will win here because they have to win a couple games?
Both are so bad. Like, who do you... I mean...
Do you think the Panthers might win this one? Because it's a home game for them?
God, how do you pick between two bad teams who's going to win? I honestly, I think it's just like... It's going to be a defensive battle. There's more unprovens with what the Panthers are going to look like because they're young, which I feel like is going to give them a nod in the middle of the season. Yeah, I'm kind of leaning towards a Panthers win here.
Okay.
Just because, I mean,
it's a home game.
They're both so bad.
Yeah.
Or they both look really bad, which is why
we have hope for them. I mean, I like to be optimistic, but
a little bit, not too much.
Not too much.
Calm down.
So
week 11 bye.
This is interesting.
12.
Week 12, both the Buccaneers and the Giants have a bye. Then week 11, so they both come off a bye. So, Buccaneers are visiting the Giants. Week 12 tends to... It's the transition into in the winter time.
Yeah, it's November. It's the what is this, Thanksgiving weekend?
Mm-hmm. Something like that.
1, 2, 3. Yeah, that's Thanksgiving weekend. Roughly. It's gonna be cold. Florida team
in New York.
And Buccaneers are a little bit iffy. Again, they are both coming off of a bye, so that doesn't really help either of them.
No. But if somebody is going to be adapted to their current situation, it will be the Giants.
Yeah, I'm kind of thinking that. Although, just I see it being a win for the Giants. It just, if it happens, I'm gonna be so disappointed in the Buccaneers. But again, are they gonna actually pick up their consistency?
Probably not. I mean, I hope they do, because the Buccaneers were a pretty interesting team. Like the turnaround.
Yeah,
but
I liked actually. I was okay rooting for the Buccaneers last year, which is the first time in
a
little while that I was okay with that. But
I only cheer for the Buccaneers only because there's a couple Husker players on that team.
I like Baker too,
and Baker's fun. I also like Evans and Goodwin. So they win against the Buccaneers. So
win against Buccaneers, but then loss against
the Cowboys. I think they beat the Saints in Week 14. I think because it's a home game.
What's true for the Buccaneers is even more so true for the Saints.
Yeah, Ravens will beat the Giants Week 15.
Yes, the Ravens beat the Giants, and then they go on the road to Atlanta. That's just not going to be pretty.
No, Falcons will win that one. Colts visiting New York. I think Colts should.
We had that one as a Colts win.
Yeah, so the Colts have that as a win. So the Colts win that one. I don't know why I thought I didn't have that one. New York to Philadelphia. Philadelphia's going to rest their starters. Philadelphia's going to be the one winning that division.
Yes, I agree, but also I mean, even with the backups, and they're still going against Kenny Pickett, who's probably still a better option than Daniel Jones if he's even playing at that point. So, I mean, I could see. I mean, maybe.
Do you want to just leave that as a, what do you call it? Do you want to just leave that as a Giants win for right now and just kind of come back to that?
I just don't even think the Giants win.
Okay.
Even against the backups, it's at Philly, and I think even the backups in Philly could beat New York. And if New York is this bad, you probably aren't looking at Daniel Jones anymore. You're probably looking at some backups trying to play some young players, and I think that's so. Like I still see that as a loss, even though it doesn't matter.
Fair. All right. So Giants have 4 wins.
Honestly, I was thinking 3-4 wins. Realistically, just like not looking at the schedule, just 3-4 wins.
I don't know. The Giants might surprise us. I don't know. Any of these teams can surprise us. They can be really good or they can be really bad.
I mean, that was Brian Dable year 1 with the Giants. Was look, they made the playoffs, and then
nobody expected that to happen.
Then they were as bad as we expected year 2, which really didn't help out any of them because they needed to rebuild, and now they can start to do that. But
yeah, let's see here. Now we're gonna move on to Philadelphia.
Yes, and we can fill in what we know. So,
Eagles have a 4-win streak between 6 and 9. So they beat the Browns, the Giants, the Bengals, and the Jaguars.
And then lose to Dallas.
They lost to Dallas. Yeah. Week 13 they beat the Ravens. Week 15 they beat the Steelers. 17 and 18, we have Eagles wins.
Which already puts them at 8 wins. So they literally would just need 2 more to win the division, pretty much.
Yeah. And now, time to look at the others. Week 1, Green Bay visiting Philadelphia.
I don't know, because it's so impossible to guess what a game in Brazil is going to look like. Like, it's already weird when it's in London. Like, when I look at London games, I'm like, I have no idea. If it's the Jaguars, I'm picking the Jaguars. Otherwise, no clue.
I'm going to say Philadelphia is a little hungover from last season, just trying to recuperate the collapse that they had. Packers might just start out strong by beating Philadelphia. I think that's very reasonable. I mean, both are, in my opinion, both are expected to be really good teams this next year. So I think the Packers might win this one. Eagles will have a very sloppy start, I feel like.
Yeah, I was kind of leaning towards the Packers. I don't know why in Brazil I think the Packers are going to win, but for some reason this matchup, maybe it's just because it's the Eagles, but I kind of was also thinking Packers. And then they come back, what would that be, 8, 9, 10 days later?
10 days later to the Falcons at home. Do you think the Falcons beat the Eagles? Do you think they're that good?
I think they can be that good. God, the thing with the Eagles is because they were a good roster last year, but it
was all coaching. That was the reason why they fell apart.
So is their coaching better is the real question, because bad coaching could leave them just... I mean, they're not. I don't think they're going to be as bad as they were last year.
No.
But it could leave them still to struggle in games like this.
Yeah.
So...
Do you want to...
I have a hard time picking either way, because it's like, yes, it's home advantage to Philadelphia. You just came from Brazil. Kind of advantage Atlanta. We know what the Philadelphia should be. We don't know as much what Atlanta should be, but I think Atlanta could end up being a potential 1 seed. 1 or 2 seed. They also could be like an 8, like miss the playoffs just because, we've seen them do that before with Arthur Smith, but
but it ain't Arthur Smith this time. That's the difference.
I also think Arthur Smith could Arthur Smith could have gotten them to the playoffs with Kirk Cousins.
That's
At least Kirk Cousins pre-injury. So
maybe. Do you want to say Falcons for this one?
sure, I was kind of just in the middle, but
We can leave it as a middle right now.
okay.
We'll leave it as a middle. Eagles visiting the Saints. Eagles should beat the Saints.
Yeah, this one might be tough, but I think they still win.
I do think they lose against the Buccaneers, though.
Interesting. When is that? That
That's
would
the
be
next week.
September 29th.
It's a little warm down there.
It's a day game, so
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I could see. The other thing with Philadelphia is and we don't know how much it will change, but they did lose Jason Kelsey, which is like, oh, they'll probably have a backup for him and everything, but how much of Jalen Hurts' play style was even possible with Jason Kelsey? Is the tush push even possible without Jason Kelsey? A large part of the whole reason why Jalen Hurts' stance the way it was because Jason Kelsey snapped the ball so hard. Or at least that's what was stated. I'm sure he's still going to have the same stance, but it's like Jason Kelsey was just a different center. And how much different is that? And also you have your O-line's aging a little bit. So I think they'll still be good. I think a slip up against Tampa Bay would be very plausible.
So a loss to Tampa Bay.
I could give a loss to Tampa Bay.
Okay.
But
And then we don't have Week 11.
Week 11 against Washington.
Beat Washington.
Washington always plays them close, I feel like. For no reason.
Mm-hmm. They will play them close.
What it was, last year, they took them to overtime. They played them really close for no reason. Like, it was ridiculous.
They kept
And then,
competitive. That's all I can say about them.
what was it, the year before? It was the year before. They gave the Eagles their first loss with, I think, Taylor Heineke starting, which was ridiculous. I don't know why this game is always so close. I could see Week 11 being a
split 'em.
win for Philadelphia
Then they lose to Washington at
on the
on
road.
the road. Because it's always going to be a toss-up between the two.
I wouldn't say it always is, but for some reason Washington plays them close, and I think this year they're gonna get a win at least. And then we got Week 12 against the Rams on the road.
On the road, Rams are probably winning this one.
Very possible.
I mean, Rams didn't... Okay, sure, Aaron Donald retired. But that Rams offense it's very electric. So...
That's true.
I can see the Rams winning this one.
Yeah.
And then we have Eagles' victory over the Ravens. And then...
Panthers, probably a win.
They should. Beat the Panthers.
And then win against Steelers, loss against Commanders, and then win out, right?
Yeah, and they went out the last 2 weeks. So that leaves them right now at 11-5-1. There's a quote-unquote toss-up between the Falcons and Eagles.
So, 11 and a half or so.
11.5 wins, something like that.
Which, yeah.
I'm okay with that.
I can see that. And then finally on to the Commanders, which... Hey, now. Careful.
So Commanders visit Tampa Bay. Buccaneers should win this one. I mean, It's Jaden Daniels. It's his first game, or at least first official NFL game. They will probably not do so hot. They lose to the Buccaneers. We had them beating the Giants week 2.
Mm-hmm.
They lose to the Bengals.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh. Do you think
Cleveland?
the Cardinals will be more improved, or do you think the Commanders will be more improved?
I kind of like... this is interesting because it's kind of you get a revenge game for Cliff Kingsbury. But
I have a question. for the Commanders, what kind of defense do they have to stop Marvin Harrison Jr.?
I mean, I was more so going to say to stop Kyler Murray, not because...
I'm not. That's what I'm saying. It's just that you have Marvin Harrison Jr., fresh, very good wide receiver from college, who should translate very well into the NFL. How do you stop him? And then Kyle Murray's back. He likes to scramble a lot.
Yeah, and I don't think they have the edge rushers.
I don't think they do. So, do you think the Cardinals...
I think the Cardinals win also just because I think the Cardinals... I mean, the Cardinals' defense isn't great, but you have Jonathan Gannon who was able to coach that defense in a way that made them very scrappy and made it so they could play those teams very close.
Yes.
So I think Cardinals are like a step ahead on their rebuild. Okay. So I have that as another loss. And then they play Cleveland.
Lose to Cleveland. Lose to Baltimore week 6. Panthers, Commanders, 7.
Yes. I'm kind of thinking Commanders.
Yeah. Week 8 is Bears visiting the Commanders.
Why do they play so much?
Thank goodness it's not a Thursday night game, right, guys?
Yeah.
It's probably not going to be as bad as the previous ones. Hopefully.
Yeah, we got young QBs again because last year was Fields and Howell, and now we have
Williams and Daniels.
Yep, which there's more hype currently.
I think Williams should have the edge here. Williams is going into a system that is prepared for him. Daniels, he has pieces. I don't know how they're going to mesh together.
I mean, I would almost argue that like anything, you look at anything that Chicago has, I think the Commanders also have. Rookie QB who did really well in college, but like how is he going to transfer? Make splashy plays. You both have good receivers.
Eckler is on the Commanders.
And the Bears have Swift.
And they have Swift on the Bears.
I don't remember.
So
they have, but it's like, and then you kind of have like defenses that need to be revamped. Again, the Bears would have Montez Sweat because he got traded from the Commanders to the Bears. So that'll be interesting. It's just, I think these are two teams that are going to be interesting. I think the Commanders will be a little more consistent. I see the Bears being a very inconsistent team.
Yes. Especially Caleb Williams' first year.
And just all that they've built is just like, it is not a complete roster in my eyes. You have
it's fair.
Iffy O-line. Your defense has a lot of holes. You have older receivers. Well, you have Keenan Allen, who's older and injury prone, and then DeAndre Swift, who's had iffy years. So it's like you don't really know what to. The Bears could be one of the best teams in the league some weeks and one of the worst teams other weeks. You're on the road going to Washington.
This might be one of those ones then, if we're going to assess the Bears being iffy for most of the season.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking Washington, especially Washington looking like the worst team at what we have as 2-5 at the time.
Yeah.
Kind of leaning towards Washington.
Okay, we'll give Washington.
We'll see. The
win. Week 9, Giants win. 10, Steelers win. 11, Eagles win. 12 and 13, Titans and Cowboys win. Bye is week 14. Saints are hosting the Commanders. I mean, Saints should win this one.
Definitely should.
We'll have a Saints win then. And then Eagles lose the Commanders week 16. 17, Falcons are visiting the Commanders. Falcons should be able to beat the Commanders, supposedly.
Should.
So we'll have Falcons beating Commanders then.
Sure.
And then Dallas beating them in week 18. So that leaves them off at a 4-13 record. I'm sorry, guys. 4-13 record. And that puts them tied for last in that division.
Which I just don't believe is actually going to happen.
No.
I think they sneak out a couple more a few more wins, and it's hard to tell who it's going to be. Tennessee, I think you could make an argument there. New Orleans.
Yeah.
Maybe even Atlanta. The division games, who really knows? Because, and then, again, they play Arizona. That's going to be interesting because both are rebuilding. Cleveland could be worse this year. Carolina's not good.
No.
Pittsburgh could struggle if they don't end up getting Brandon Ayuk. Who knows? I think, regardless, I'm okay with the picks we make, but then I look at it and I'm like, I think they end up with more than 4 wins.
Yeah. Like we said, anything is possible. We are predicting. This is not what's going to happen. I don't know. We kind of might predict a few things. We kind of might not predict a few things because it's very hard to tell, especially this early on. A lot of these teams have a lot of these hype trains surrounding them. So it's hard to tell. But we're trying to be reasonable, I guess, because we're basing most of this off of what we've heard from these rosters, off of last year, and I guess our gut feeling. I guess that's normally how you make predictions, but yeah. So that's it for the East. So yeah. Anything else that you want to mention for this one?
Nah, I think we covered it pretty well. So yeah, to wrap up the NFC East, we have the Philadelphia Eagles ending in first at 11.5 wins, roughly. Dallas in second at 10 wins. And then Washington and New York at 3 and 4. I'm going to just say probably Washington 3 and then the Giants at 4.
Yep.
So
that's a fair assessment.
We could be dead wrong. I don't know.
We probably will be.
Cowboys
had
could
a few
win
of
the
these
division again for some reason, but
they could finally break the NFC East trend where there is no such thing as a repeat of division winners.
Oh, you're right. Yeah, it's definitely going to be the Eagles then. I feel more confident now.
All right, then.
Unless it's the Commanders.
That would be weird. Anyways, thank you all for joining us. We're going to be finishing out the NFC East probably really soon, obviously before the season starts. So, yeah.
You should finish out the NFC East. It was all out.
Oh.
Instead of the NFC.
Anyways, finishing up the NFC.
Yeah.
We'll see you soon. See ya.
Bye.